you for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure. I have my friend and another yellow vest as well. He is my friend Steve Wilde on tonight. He's kindly agreed to join me. Um, so, Steve, just to start with you, you're also a yellow vest, and that's where I personally first met you quite a while ago now. It's over a year ago, isn't it? It feels like
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well over a year ago, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, but although you was already into, they call it activism, don't they? I didn't really know there was a word to it, really, to be honest. It shows how much I know. But like I said, I've never been a political person. So even though we're going to speak about few different things tonight, Steve, I'm in the room. You've been in this room before. So if anyone wishes to ask any questions to me or Steve, please feel free to do so. Steve, just to say, how long have you been doing some form of activism? You know, when did you become aware of things going on?
I mean, when you talk about activism in what many people might call the word, I'd say probably for about 2 years or so. I mean, consistently wise. Um, I mean, I've always been very interested in. I guess my interest in activism sort of found its roots in alternative media. I personally always found like sort of a much more intrinsic value in listening to the perspective of just ordinary people, as opposed to just putting faith in like media moguls or people in positions of authority. I find it quite bizarre that people do that in general, because media companies and stuff are they're always lobbied, they're always funded by interest groups. Um, so I think sort of when I did start going to demos, uh, you end up sort of reading conflicting articles, even sort of the next day, uh, always with disingenuous narratives. Um, so it just became more and more important for me to keep consistently going out on the streets as much as possible to change that narrative.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's not until you're out, literally on on the streets, on the grassroots of the streets, to see really what is going on. I.e., exactly what you're saying. You know, basically attending a demo and seeing the next day how it's portrayed in the media, which is a completely different demo to what it actually was. You know, and that's, along the journey, my journey is slightly different because I dealt with the mainstream media initially after what happened to my son. And then I had to deal, obviously, with the mainstream media when I was out on the streets and other demos and when we walked as yellow vests. News night, not news night. What was it? Was it news night when Katie, what's her name,
Razzle,
Razzle, did a piece?
razzle.
Yeah, did a piece as well on us. Anyone, as you will see yourself, that stands up and speaks out, they just class as far right, which really is just to stifle debate and to stop showing the truth of really what's going on in the country, which you've seen firsthand as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just that, Tracy. I mean, obviously, I think me and you being consistent sort of foot soldiers out there, we've sort of seen it all. One thing that just it still boggles my mind now, and it used to happen on a regular basis, is where you'd sort of get bystanders, and then you'd get the police telling them, like, if people to ask, "Oh, what's that group about?" They tell them perhaps what they've been told or whatever, but it just be completely wrong. They go, "Oh, they're this far right group, or they're this or they're that," and and it just isn't true. And then it just creates this hostility between you and the public.
Don't the
Um,
police always say that EDL? That's what I always hear the police. Oh, yeah, it's an
yeah, we've
EDL
had
far right. It's an EDL far right thing. Yeah,
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 XEDL and all
I
that
hear
sort of
that
stuff.
so often. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
um,
that's the usual one. We've actually heard, and I know I have. I've actually gone past the police when exactly what Steve has just said about a bystander asking, normally the police, who these people are, and you'll hear the police say either they're NF or EDL, and I'm not putting the EDL down because I don't know enough about them, but things like that. That's exactly what they do.
Do you know what is important to do though, Tracy? So it's something I learned very quickly. I think is to when you do engage with the public, even with hostility, perhaps that they've been you, you know either heard about in the media or firsthand from the police, is just to talk to them in a calm demeanour, and every now and again you'll those handshakes you get, you know, a pat on the back, or if someone sort of says, "Oh well, no, you know, we support that," that sort of gives me just a little glimmer of hope uh, in the darkness, you know, and that's why I think street level protesting is important to switch the narrative. Just tiny little things like that makes it all sort of worth it, you know.
Stephen Tracy, have you ever actually spoken to the police that walk along beside you and actually found that they actually do honestly think that you are EDL? I mean, have you ever had a copper say to you, well, are you not EDL then? You know, and you're
Well,
like,
I'll tell
no.
you, yeah.
Or do they know full well that you're not? But
No, I'll tell you what we get. I'll tell you what we get.
I always wonder what their briefing is.
Yeah, shall I answer this one, Steve? What we get is, for example, we was at Trafalgar Square one day, and they would send a TSG, which are the police bully boys, yeah,
Ex-military as well.
yeah, and they would send them a lot on us. They wouldn't do it like every week, so they'd play this game. You know, sometimes you could turn up and there'd be no liaison officers, and you know, so they'd play this game of you not being able to predict when they would turn up. So, So one day we was at Trafalgar Square, and one of our another yellow vest called, I'll just say his first name is Keith. He'd just been arrested and he was doing nothing wrong, right? Because he was actually still walking, so there was no obstruction there. So he'd done nothing lawfully wrong. Anyway, they just arrested him, and when I turned around to the right, I see this big pile of TSG standing there ready. So I went straight over to them and I said to them, "Do you know why you're here? Do you know what we're demonstrating against?" And they admitted they don't know. They just follow an order. And that's what a lot of them do. But what you'll also get is some of them, and I don't remember, Steve, if you, I know you would have been there, but whether you remember what happened when we went to stand and support the Hong Kong people on the bridge that day.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything was fine, wasn't it? But once they walked off, everyone was enjoying us being there. We was in the road holding up things to show these demonstrators you can do this, yeah. And then they walked off and we started following them. Then all of a sudden, the people at the front turned around and told us all to go. But what had happened, an officer had gone over to them. This is the tactics they do. They go over to them and say, "Well, look, see these people in the yellow, you know they're this and you know they're that." And then it changes, the atmosphere changes, doesn't it? And then the people don't want you there. So they lie to the other demonstrations that we've supported, and we support everyone when we're up there. Any demo we come across where people are just demonstrating for peace or for knife crime or for anything, we always support them, don't we?
Yeah, Tracy, it's a hard game to play. Really, sometimes when you get stuff like that. We've had a few sort of issues like that. I don't necessarily blame sort of the the police officers that just sort of go out, because they obviously all get briefing, and they get told what we're about by someone else. So they believe it just as much as the public do in that sense, I guess. So it's just one of them. It's just one of them really really tough things to, because there's all sorts of bad press about you, isn't there? Like the yellow vest in general. But I mean, for me personally, I'm not particularly interested too much in the whole left and right sort of dichotomy. I mean, I find the whole sort of tribal element rather pointless, if I'm being fair. Like, it all sort of stems back to just the sort of Tory Labour argument. I think the saying sort of goes, it's two wings of the same bird. And it is really, like, because division is imperative from the top down, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And just to say, we've got a question in the room, Steve, from Danny. He is asking, can he ask, what was the thing that red pilled you?
It was a personal issue to do with my brother back in 2009 when I was very, bit of,
Yeah,
so something relatively traumatic that sort of changed my perception of the world, how even the military, the people in power, the people below them, the division, how it's all sort of treated. If I'm being totally honest, right, I've always been relatively reluctant to sort of come to terms with the fact that there really is a deep state. And I think the reason I've been quite reluctant to accept that is because it's so sinister. It's unbelievable. And it's quite dark, and it just changed my whole perspective on life. Listen, I'm just an ordinary fella that stands up for ordinary people, and I just want what's best for the working class. So any way I can do that, I will happily give up my spare time to do that. You know, and it's not just about me. There's people struggling everywhere, all over the country. I mean, just the people I've met on the Yellow Vest. I mean, Tracy, obviously yours is one of the most heartbreaking stories I've ever heard in my life. There's people suffering everywhere, just ordinary people, people that put their trust in these people, and I can't for the life of me see why, because they're not your friend. Their interests aren't in your heart, you know. So.
and this has been the hardest thing with what's going on now for, I think, for many of us in the Yellow Vest, you know, if you want to call it a movement, you know, which is, as Steve quite rightly said, is just an ordinary person. That's all I am. I'm not political. Yes, I stood as an MP, but I did that to try and infiltrate them back. But I tried to do that for the people, you know, for genuine reasons. Excuse me. And you know, that's all the Yellow Vests are. They're not left, they're not right. The government created that. We're not political. We just stand up for the people, the children, and the country. There's many people, you know, like Stevie's got his own personal story that he has actually spoken about on demos. And when he did speak about, he got the same treatment as me from people online, or all of a sudden he was getting dodgy phone calls because all he really did was speak out.
Yeah, that's right.
And and was brave enough to tell everyone, you know, his heartbreaking story. And that's exactly what it is, a heartbreaking story. And you know, you meet so many people out there that came on the Yellow Vest that, you know, there was parents there who had lost their children through forced adoption, and things like that, you know, or victims of knife crime. We met so many people out there. We, like I said a moment ago, supported so many different demonstrations. And then we became, I believe, one of the most hated movements online, I'd say,
Yeah,
and amongst some of the people on the right, which was very sad to see, because these people knew that we was just out there for the right reasons. We're just genuine people, and we were standing up for the right things. But they didn't want the people in the country to really see what we was all about, to really see that we were just ordinary people. So they had to paint us as a picture that we was not. And there's many good people in the Yellow Vest. And as I was saying before we came on, and Steve knows this, you know, how they always try and portray me as the leader. I was just one of the first 34. There is no leaders in the Yellow Vest. Steve is someone himself who, when we're out there, will speak out and take a mic. Anyone who comes can take a mic and speak out. But they try and portray someone as a leader, because then it tries to portray the movement as something else other than it is, when we were just ordinary people. Steve.
yeah, yeah. Well, Tracy, I mean, that's bang on what you were saying there. I mean, you obviously had quite a bit of public interest after your sort of case come to light. And then obviously the Yellow Vest started. So you were seen as a leader, but I don't think anyone really gets that you're not. You're really not. We're a unity of people. We've always been fundamentally about unity. Really nothing else. We're just people looking out for other people. And you do find yourself making quite strong bonds with people you never thought you would. It's just one of them things in life, you know. I'll sort of never forget that I was a part of it. I'm not gonna lie, I do really miss being out there at the moment. How's lockdown treating you, Tracy?
I'm surviving. When I go out, I won't wear a mask or anything like that, because to me that's compliance in their
Yeah.
illusion, and it's compliance when I haven't consented as an individual to their draconian laws, which they passed under the Coronavirus Bill 2020. I certainly don't believe any of it. I believe that people that are dying, sadly, people are dying, but not of COVID-19, and they're just putting that on the death certificate for the figures. That's my perception on it. That's my perception based on, Steve, what we've seen out there, what I've, the propaganda, what I've experienced myself, what I've been put in, and what my family's been put through, as well as some other families. Just to say, Aidan has asked this question, Steve. I believe there are some strata in society, and that there are some hidden layers that control the rest of us. What are your thoughts on that? Well, that's a definite, isn't it?
I mean, absolutely, yes. Like I was saying earlier, I was quite reluctant to accept the fact that there is definitely a deep state. I mean, you only have to look as far as the symbology that's everywhere. Say, for example, what we're in now, you only need to look as far as the symbol for the WHO, the World Health Organization. It's a serpent.
Yes.
Right. So, when in symbology or history has the serpent ever been a good thing? It's not. It's evil. It's always been evil. It's always been the belly of evil. So and these logos and stuff, they're not just random, made by artists and stuff. They all have meanings behind them. Particularly when you walk down Whitehall and stuff, which we've done probably thousands of times up and down. You've got all these statues above you, and if you sort of research them, they're called the Watchers of Whitehall, and the symbology behind them is just it's just unbelievable. There's serpents all over London, unicorns, mythological creatures. It's very I personally feel like, when I was talking earlier about the sort of the dichotomy of the left and the right, I very much feel like we're as a people being laughed at, because whilst we're fighting amongst each other, they're all sitting back having a chuckle. Does that make sense?
That makes 100 sense, and this is what I've actually been typing for the last few weeks now. When I see something, they're continually mocking us, and that's what
They are, yeah.
You know, when they're getting I don't think a lot of them are NHS nurses doing the dancing. I think it's all stage managed. A lot of them are actresses and actresses. I put a video out last week that I put together and put out on my Facebook page, but I'm forever shadow banned, and Twitter is a joke for me, you know. I don't even know why I bother going on there, and YouTube. So I'm shadow banned on all of them. But if you share the video a couple of times, a few more will see it, to try and show people to start thinking for themselves. Symbology is one of the biggest key here, because you're right, Steve. It's everywhere. It's in someone shared a company the other day, and you can look at it, right? It's called Polaris, Polris. They've got a page on Facebook as well, and medical. Now they've got control loads of ambulances, and they also do or what they do, like filming. So they obviously can do some acting amongst it as well. Look them up. Look at their name and see the symbology in the name. They've got the serpent as the eye. In medical, you'll see. Look it up and you'll see exactly what Steve is talking about. He's talking about the serpent, and it's the same shape, yeah, which is on this Polaris medical.
Oh, well,
Go
correct
on.
me if I'm wrong. I used to be a bit of a sort of a amateur astronomer. Polaris is sort of, I think, the closest star to our galaxy, and it's often called like, well, it's often misconstrued as being Venus rising, and I think like in sort of ancient Hebrew, it was called the morning star, and it had to do a lot with
I don't like me and Steve
life and
being
death.
on. There's a network error. Sorry, Steve. I don't know if you can hear me. Jason,
I can
are you
hear.
there?
Yeah, Tracy, what's happening? Hello, Tracy.
Are you there? Are we showing? Because it looks like it's saying
Let me have a look and see.
there was a network error. And isn't it funny? As soon as Steve started speaking about symbology,
It all looks fine to me.
yeah, on my end it's saying on. I do
Yeah.
apologise, everyone. It's saying
Check in the chat if people can still see us, and that I can hear you all fine. So
yeah, because we're running off a different system. Can I just ask everyone in the chat if you can see us, please? Because it's showing me that on the screen it says there's a network
Give them
error.
20 seconds to reply, Tracy, because of the delay.
Ah, right. Okay, then. Thank you. Something happened there weirdly. I don't know if it's my end or.
It might have been an internet issue on your side, Tracy, that took you out for a second and put you back in again.
Yeah, very
Everything's
strange.
running fine here, and
Just
it's
very
still streaming. So
Right, now it's just loaded up.
it's the aliens, Tracy.
Right, hang on. There's another question. I just saw another question. Where is it? I'm sure I said something about. Sure, I read something about slaves. Maybe I imagine that because that's what we are. Danny has put COVID-19 makes me feel like a lab rat in an experiment by the system for communism. Spot on, because that's another thing as Yellow Vest that we've been saying for a whole year. And we've even been playing that song, haven't we, Steve, out there, that Dan kept putting on the PA. And, you know, we was out there one time, we was there at a Brexit demo supporting the DFLA. And you had Remainers on part of the grass and you had the police kettling in the Brexiteers. Of course, they were kettling in the people that were standing up for the freedom. And they was then allowing the ones that didn't want the freedom, which were the Remainers, they had a demo and Paul Mason was standing on the stage and he was lying to them. And I caught him further up the road because he's a known Marxist. And I confronted him and I was telling the people there, the Remainers that were with him, that he was lying to them. And we've said so many times, even when we was at the knife crime demo, we've got it on a live feed. I found it the other day. And when we was at Speaker's Corner, we were saying, look, they're trying to bring in New World Order and communism is coming through the back door. And here it is, because this is what communism is, taking your liberties away, your freedom away, your rights away. And that's what's going on.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that day very well, Tracy. That Paul Mason fella. I think when you sort of told me about him, I looked into him. He's all sorts of evil. That guy. It was quite funny actually when you were talking about the kettling and stuff. Like the Yellow Vests are quite clever because we always get hassle with police and stuff. So they sort of managed to get out of the police kettle. I got stuck in, so I thought, I'll play them at their own game or whatever. So I ended up saying to the fella I was an independent YouTuber, and he let me out.
It is true though. We can see them coming, can't we? And there wasn't really any, you know, apart from you in there. Like,
Yeah,
didn't get stuck in there. We was on the outside. You
yeah.
know,
Funny.
go.
Sorry, funny you should speak about communism coming in through the back door. I'm thinking sort of about this sort of lockdown stuff. It's just an opinion of mine that I want to put out there. Might be a bit controversial, but it's just mine. sort of whilst everyone's in lockdown, whilst everyone obviously absolutely supports the NHS and the frontline workers, of course, I'm very wary and concerned about scheduled applause. Personally, I think sort of clapping on demand when the government tells you to is a very slippery road to social conditioning. This is literally what they do in communist countries, and it sort of reminds me of North Korea when they're all forced to mourn for the death of a leader. So I just think it's social conditioning to an extent, and obviously we don't have that sort of enforcement here. But what you do have is social pressure, and you will face scrutiny for it if you sort of publicly don't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's the same thing again, isn't it? It's to create that divide.
Can I just say, Tracy, that Steve is spot on there, isn't he?
Yeah, it is social conditioning.
It's something I've spoke about, and even if it wasn't intended to do that, you can guarantee the government would have noticed our compliance.
Absolutely.
They would have learnt the left. They would have learnt and seen the level of compliance we'll submit to, and subscribe ourselves to. It's quite scary.
Yeah, I mean, personally.
Sorry to interrupt, Tracy. Just wanted to compliment Steve on that. And say you're spot on. Back to you, Tracy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Go on, Steve. What was you going to say? It's really playing up this end, Steve. Go on.
All right.
The internet.
Yeah, personally, I just think like social pressure is a really big thing that a lot of people don't notice. People can sort of say, oh, I'm against the government and the tyranny and what they're doing and stuff, and then there's tiny little things like that, right, that you really have to watch out for. Personally, this whole sort of lockdown thing, I don't think things are ever going to be the same now. Say for example, if we were let out of lockdown in 2 weeks' time, right, and just say everything opens up again, which won't happen, but just say hypothetically that it does. People are still socially conditioned to not go near each other now. So things are just not going to be the same. I think my internet.
Tracy's gone quiet.
Oh, Tracy's gone.
I think maybe she's got a few issues with the internet. Maybe, I don't know.
She froze. They don't like her, do they? The internet.
You there, Tracy?
Was I coming through all right there?
Yeah, you're still coming through perfectly fine. I think Tracy's
so.
got some internet issues, or maybe needs to close a few tabs. Maybe that might make a difference. But yeah, the level of control is just outrageous, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, it is, mate.
And you're right. Will we be the same? Will we get back to normal? What is normal these days? I think normal changes on a weekly basis, doesn't it? It really does. But yeah,
it does. I mean, when this all sort of first started, like I kind of felt like I was in a bit of a movie. Like, is this sort of real? Is this really people staying in when the government are telling us to stay in? Is that right? Okay. No one's sort of seen any hard evidence of it, and it's all a bit skewed and stuff.
I think it's become a case of like monkey see, monkey do. One person's compliant, so then the neighbour sees them, they become compliant.
Do you know what it is, though?
What are you doing going out? You can't go out. It's got to the point now where we're actually regulating each other. The police can sit back and let us all report on each other and grass each other up for go. I mean, there was I think it was Tinky yesterday was saying, someone put a video up and it was a girl talking about how she was getting photographed out with her kids in the park because she did go out with her children, and this person's taking photographs of her.
That's right, yeah.
No doubt to report her, and it's weird,
Well, I mean, I've actually sort of experienced a bit of that. To be fair, I'm like classed as a key worker or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm out sort of every day digging holes or whatever. I work on water, everyone needs water. So, I quite often get people sort of pulling up beside me when I'm working, going, "You're allowed to be here," sort of thing. I'm like, oh,
"What's he got to do with you?" That's what I'd say.
But it's sort of like, well, yeah, I've got a gas mask on. I'm 6 feet down a hole, and there's a burst main. Like, what do you want me to do? People are paranoid everywhere as well. I've had quite a lot of people ask me, are you laying 5G cables and sort of stuff like that?
Really?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot of stick for it as well. People thinking that I'm putting 5G in. It's like, no, I'm just fixing the main.
Mad.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Are you back, Tracy? What happened?
It just took me out. It all went down. And
do you need to close any tabs or anything running in the background?
I've never had this as bad as this. No.
Anyone using an Xbox in the house and gaming or anything?
No.
Strange.
No. I think it's because it's me and Steve on, and when you talk about coronavirus or symbology, they want you off. To say, Ado, thank you for posting the link with regards to Ado has put the link into that day up London, the day Paul Mason was up there, and he'd actually been there since the day before. So he's put it in the link for us in the room. Thank you for it. And I don't know what you was discussing while I was kicked off, but I see someone has put there is plenty of snitches and little tyrants. So I don't know if you was talking about any of that, but yeah, there are plenty of them.
Should we go over what we were saying, Steve? We were saying Steve was saying about being a key worker and having people walking up to him in the street saying, "Are you meant to be out? Are you allowed to be out?" And he's even been questioned apparently to ask if he's working on 5G when he's down a hole. And how mad is that?
Yeah.
It's strange because the public are being. This is what I was talking about with social conditioning earlier. The public are snitching on the public.
That's it. That's what I was saying, isn't it, Steve? I was
bizarre.
saying about the public are doing the work. The police can sit back and watch the public actually question and report on each other. It's like
it's self-policing.
Yeah.
A few weeks back, I think I said
self-regulation.
A few weeks back, I don't know if I said it on a live on Facebook or on here, I saw a post where someone had taken a picture of someone who was fishing. They was fishing by themselves, and they were like, "Quick, get down there, or call the police to get them to..." You're like, what the hell is going on?
Madness.
Yeah, one person on their own just fishing. So what? Leave them alone. They obviously know, more than you do. They're obviously aware that they will be fine. I can guarantee that everyone can take their masks off, walk any place in London, walk through any hospital, and you'll be fine. As long as you're not already ill with something else, you'll be fine. I would happily do it. I'd happily walk through, fly to China and walk through one of their hospitals without a mask.
Yeah, Tracy, I'm with you there, mate. I don't really doubt that. I do have sort of people close to me that have been affected by it, but I don't necessarily think it's that. I think they've just acquired it to them, if you know what I mean.
Also, Steve, I've seen a lot of people on the internet that have been going mad because they've had relatives that have been ill or sadly passed away, and the death certificates have got COVID-19 written on them. And the relatives are going mad because they know that their relative died because they had a heart condition or something else that has caused it. But it seems like the medical professionals are so keen to write the word COVID-19 on everything,
Yeah, well, they have to get their numbers from somewhere, don't they?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, their numbers.
But people are actually speaking out about it now, Tracy. They're going mad about it.
Anyone who's coming in, I know someone who works in a hospital, and she actually went back to the hospital the other day because she took some time off because she kept panicking. And she'd message me and say, "Oh, Tracy, talk to me, tell me what you think." So I'd tell her so she wouldn't panic. And anyway, she managed to go back to work. And she said all she sees coming in.
Oh, we've lost Tracy again. Her internet's
lost her again.
Yeah, her internet's really bad.
Oh dear.
If she can get back on, maybe we'll ask her to switch over to her mobile phone and try that. Or turn her webcam off and see if that makes it work.
Yeah, I don't know what the crack with that is, mate.
It's weird because
it's annoying.
It's definitely an internet issue.
Yeah, I have noticed sometimes on our lives it goes a bit funny.
Mind you, I have heard that a lot of the internet providers now are turning down the internet speeds because obviously in the evenings more people are at home using the internet, and actually nowadays even in the daytime people are using it more. It's like even YouTube, they've set the default to be a lower resolution rather than a higher.
Yeah.
You know, it's a default
Jason,
to default to 1080, didn't it? But now it's defaulting to large. Even Netflix are reducing the resolution.
Well, I can definitely believe that. Like, I've actually every now and again, right? I've sort of my 4G is just doing nothing, just not working. So I have to sort of change my settings and go 2G/3G, and it sort of does what it needs to do.
Yeah. Well, the way the internet works is that your internet goes through. I think it's called a contention ratio. It's like you share the same line as 30 other people to use the internet. It all connects into one thing, and if all 30 people are on it at once, it can slow it right down.
All right.
Obviously, because of lockdown, there's more people online than there ever was. So
anyway, listen.
I'm sure Tracy will get back on it in a minute. I'm sure she'll be back.
Well, whilst Tracy's away, how have you been coping with lockdown, mate?
You know what? I'm quite fortunate. I work from home, so it hasn't really affected my work.
Oh, right. So you're just
I'm
doing what you do.
My business is like my day-to-day routine isn't much different. You know. Having said that, a lot of my customers are really struggling. One of my customers the other day, she owed me £400, and she said, "Look, I just can't pay her." She said, "I've got to switch to monthly rather than yearly because she's lost £10,000 in her first month because they run a B&B over in Wales." And they've had to basically not shut down. You know, they lost £10,000 in the first month. You know, she said, "Like, we've used all our savings up. We've got nothing left in the bank. We're struggling." You know, she said we've had to tell people we can't pay them. So
it's crazy.
I've had that kind of effect. You know, with customers not being able to pay the bills, and having to switch to monthly rather than yearly and stuff. But
as soon as I was
Tracy's back. Excellent.
Kick me out.
There she is.
Tracy, do you want to try turning off your webcam?
Finish that off. What I was saying.
Tracy, do you want to try turning off your webcam? Because that might help. Yeah, we can hear you, Tracy, but do you want to try turning off your webcam? Because it might make the internet a bit more stable. I know we can't see you, and it's a horrible thing not to be able to see you, okay, Tracy, but if it keeps you connected, it's worth it.
That's terrible, isn't it, tonight? Just to say that, what I was saying was all she has seen is people either come in with a heart condition or people come in where they've coughed and then they've got anxiety and
Hello, Tracy.
She gone again.
Yeah, she's gone again. Hopefully she'll get back.
Alright.
Another thing I got told by a few of my customers is that they're not getting these grants and loans that businesses are meant to be getting. They're going to the big companies, not the little ones. So the big factories and stuff are getting the government money to help them keep afloat, but the small sole traders and small businesses are being kind of left to fend for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for a lot of those guys. Obviously, I'm a sole trader myself, but I work. Well, obviously, water's essential. So, but things like Sparkies and stuff, they're a bit out of work at the moment. It's really tough.
I mean, we often hear people talk about how people are like 1 or 2 paychecks away from being able to like being homeless and not paying their mortgage and their rent and stuff. You know.
Yeah.
A lot of people are living week to week, month to month, and to have no income like for a few months, it can really, really mess people's lives up.
Right, can you hear me?
Tracy's back. Excellent.
There she is.
Can you put my video on, Jason?
I can, but that's probably why it's not working, Tracy, because of the video. It'll work better without it if you've got bad internet.
No, I haven't got bad internet. This is my point.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got no nothing. I don't know what is going on tonight, but it's the worst I've ever seen. So I don't know if anyone did hear what I was saying there, but going back on the communism thing, where we've been walking for a year and saying communism was coming through the back door. Deep down, I feel like it's been covertly here for a very long time. In fact, I feel it's been covertly here since after the war myself. Now, us yellow vests or anyone in the yellow vests will tell you that we could clearly see that we lived in a police state by being on the streets. We lived in a police state already, way before this, virus. But you think about it, if the government said to you, right, we want a new world order, and that's what we're going to bring in, do you consent? Everyone's going to go no. So they have to scare you into it. They have to scare you into complying because
That's
it
right.
isn't about consent, don't they, Steve?
Indeed. Yeah, it's like you were saying, mate. It's totally social conditioning. This is why I'm very wary of what I was saying earlier about scheduled applause, because it just creates a social condition. Um, uh, as well, like I was saying, if things get opened again tomorrow, people are still going to be wary of each other because of the social condition. Um, uh, the, when you talk about new world orders, right? If you look back on, particularly back Barack Obama, he was very good for implementing it sort of subconsciously to people. If you look at quite a lot of his speeches, uh, he used to mention the New World Order all the time, but he used to say it in a way that made it sound liberal, when actually what you're going to do is take away all of your civil liberties, all of them. So I just think it's something people need to be wary of, keep their eyes open to a little bit more.
You're absolutely right there as well. I've seen enough of these videos. When you do research, and I'm presuming a lot of people that are in this room now do their own research, and things like that. And I'm guessing, a lot of people wouldn't be on a show like this if they wasn't aware of many things, or listening to us. But 100%, and all that keep repeating is just like NLP. Put it in subliminally, so when it does come, everyone's going to accept it because they're going to think, or the masses are going to think, that the government are there for our benefit. They feed you like salesmen do, like this is for you, we're doing this for you. When all I've seen over the last lot of weeks is 370 million to charities that are going to help. Well, still no one's helping anyone. Who are all these charities? 20 million, I think, was given back in March with regards to researching the vaccination. Now they've given another, how much money was it? 42 million. They've just given another 42 million, but no mention of this 20 million. To me, this is just their way of taking the money out of the country, something they've always done. Yeah, bleed us and suck us dry and just use our sweat and labour. There's people here starving, and all we're doing is paying them for them to sit there, mock us, and drink champagne and not give a damn about us.
Yeah, that's very true, Tracy. I mean, in the modern world, if you actually look at, I mean, when I was talking earlier about how division is absolutely imperative to these people, so is distraction. Now, I remember a couple of months ago, right? I sort of woke up in the morning, I whacked the telly on, and I was sort of making myself lunch for the day or whatever, and I had Piers Morgan on the telly, right? And could you imagine this back in the 70s or 80s or whatever, right? It used to be Trevor McDonald telling you what had happened, right? Now, we've got Piers Morgan that has got two people that disagree on vegan sausage rolls. Like that's an issue to the nation. Do you know what I mean? There's just so much more important things to be talking about, and it really winds me up. It really frustrates me, because topics like that get millions of views, whereas you know, social services discrepancies get swept under the carpet. People don't talk about these things, and it all stems back to social conditioning. This is communism, and it's happening. If people don't open their eyes and do something, it's creeping in. I mean, me and you have been saying this for a very long time. So
That's like they discuss things that don't matter and don't discuss the things that do matter. And
exactly,
a lot
yes,
of it is materialism. People need to be concerned of what their children are being taught in school, and that's only going to get worse. If they do get back to school, but I'm presuming they will, that will only get worse. They've already taught our children. I mean, I remember my younger son who came home from school, he was in year 6 at the time, and this was in junior school, and he told me that someone had come in that day in assembly, but it wasn't only year 6 in that assembly, it was year 3 to 6. So you're talking about ages of 7 up to 11, yeah, ages of 7 up to 11. And he was telling me how they was talking about weed. So why didn't they call it cannabis? Yeah, they was talking about weed. They was telling them about cocaine. I had my son going around for nearly 2 weeks talking about cocaine. Yeah,
wow, yeah,
it's seeding. It's planting a seed into their brains. Um, at an early age, and that's just that. That's without all the sexual stuff they're doing. Fake liberalism. Yeah, a lot of that
yeah.
is fake because there's
Well,
no equality under the law.
Tracy, can I just put a point out here? Right, I've said this for a long time. I genuinely think that the word liberal and the word liberalism has been absolutely hijacked.
Yes, yes,
It's been absolutely hijacked. Liberalism today doesn't mean what it used to mean. It's not like liberalism now. It just means some sort of weird, uh, like far left utopia that will never sort of exist. Um, uh, it, Liberalism was essentially classical liberalism, right? It was about traditional values. It was it was about it was actually about the family unit, really, but it was also about free thinkers, free thought, and the right to have free thought. That was liberal. It's just been totally hijacked into this new thing that far left people claim that they are white people with dreadlocks, and then and then call cultural appropriation to someone dressing up in an Indian outfit in Halloween. Like the world's gone mad.
you're absolutely right there, and I think the word you said was infiltrated it, and it has, and that's how they've done it with everything. The same they did with us yellow vests, and Ado has mentioned it in here, where he's put the police were sent in to be violent against the yellow vests to disrupt the protests and try and paint them as far right. Infiltrators were also sent in on people who were bought out to make them look bad, you know. And that's spot on, and that's what they've done with everything. They've infiltrated the schools, the government, social services, everything. Now we've been up London. I'll do it again when we was on a yellow vest demo because we was there every week. We saw many things and many demos, and you had the naked bike ride. Now
Oh God,
with
yeah,
the
I remember that.
naked, yeah, with the naked bike ride, you know, what was also upsetting with regards to the naked, but I know there's naturists out there, but then to come down Whitehall on your bikes, and they weren't just naked, they had pins and piercings through everything, didn't they? You know, this was the case that there was not a sign put up by the police informing any people with children that may be walking up that road, that at 3 o'clock, or whatever time it was, there was going to be a naked bike ride. Now, they should have at least forewarned people with children who were walking in that area at the time. But no, they didn't do it. I saw families walking up, parents looking horrified and covering their children's eyes and things like that.
Well, absolutely, Tracy. Can I just make a point on this? Where
Mm.
I was talking about the dichotomy of the left and the right there, I think on issues like that, you tend to find common ground with a lot of people. I remember that day quite well, and something I do remember is, quite a lot of patriots being about going, there's no warnings here. There's kids everywhere and stuff. And there's also, in the same respect, there's Muslim families on the other side of the road that were kicking off as well. Like there just needs to be some sort of moral compass that everyone can. I think in a sense, perhaps I'm wrong. This is just my opinion, but I think you can find. I think you can find common ground with everyone in some sense.
Absolutely, they need to leave children to be innocent and be children.
Yeah, when it comes to children, leave children out of it. You have to. They need to be protected. But what concerns me is they're the most targeted because they're the most easily indoctrinated. That's where they get you. That's why they want people to. That's why they want the voting like age younger.
Yeah, and that's why when I was on last week's show, and I know Delroy was on it, and we told everyone or informed everyone, please look up the legislation to the coronavirus bill, because under a presumption, they can just come into your home and say that we believe your child is a carrier or has COVID-19, can swap, take them away, and everything else, And Ado's just put here, when someone, and in brackets, Ash Sarkar, can be on mainstream TV, GMB, and say, I am literally a communist, and then continue to be a media darling, that times are bad and we need to fight back. Now, I've been doing a lot of research and I've been looking into everything. And someone sent me the other day pictures back from 2000, not 2000, 1918. And that was when there was the Spanish flu. And what you come across, there was pictures of people wearing masks, what masks they used back there and so on. So black and white pictures, the Red Cross doing it. So I researched all of that. And what I found out was these pictures with them with a mask was where that was a drill. Then I found out the other pictures of the people in the beds, the people that very unwell, were because they was in the war, because the war ended in November 1918, right? Because this is how they manipulate everything.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And then, go on.
No, you go on.
I'll just quickly say, and then I thought to myself, right, what's happening at the moment? We've got the empty hospitals. Nightingale Hospital is empty. They're empty. We've got to be honest here, they are empty. So I think sit here and think, right, they know that many people are aware. What do they want? Do they want us all to go out and mass protest, right? Because you feel like civil war's been sitting there since Brexit, don't you? Because I feel like that. And people are slowly waking up. They are across the world, because this is globalism versus humanity here. It isn't just in the UK. So then what do they want? Mass protests. And then what's going to happen with mass protests? Are these empty beds for that? You have to think one step ahead. You have to try and think, what are they playing at? What is their game? So what I then did is I researched riots 2018, 2019 to see if there was riots back then. So because there's a saying that history repeats itself, but I believe that they make it repeat itself. Yeah. That's what I believe. They create these events. Yeah. So I went back. I found riots in Greece. I think there was rice riots. There was bread riots. There was even a race riot in Wales. Now I'm not so sure of that. I'm not sure that I actually believe that one, because I know along the line they have been manipulating our history and changing our history as the time has gone on.
Well, Tracy, the history that you are taught is often very selective. Um, so when you was talking about sort of the Spanish flu and stuff there, if you actually go a little bit back further, you have exactly the same characteristics, right? You have cholera, right? That also happened at the time of war. So there were medical beds everywhere. Death certificates for people that supposedly died of cholera. Did they die of cholera or did they die in the war?
Exactly. This is exactly what I mean.
And it's it's
The only
I,
way.
I,
Go
I sort of just wish I didn't know this stuff, but it's important to you have to critically analyze everything to have a understanding of it in any sense.
Absolutely. And for me, because I don't trust them at all, deep down, I believe they want civil unrest.
Of course they do.
Could these empty beds, I say could because you just don't know, the Nightingale be empty and everything else because they're waiting for everyone to rise up? Because the longer this goes on, there will be looting because people will be hungry. Yeah, people will have enough. You've got people at home with mental health issues. Goodness knows how many people have committed suicide since. Goodness knows how many people are starving.
Well,
You know,
Tracy, think about it this way, right? So my mother was a mental health nurse for quite a lot of years, and she spent quite a lot of her time rehabilitating. Well, not rehabilitating, but for people that had like mental health issues and learning difficulties, right? Her job was to make them independent, right? And that was a really good thing, get them their own place, make sure they could look after themselves, teach them to cook, all that sort of stuff, right? And these people were very fragile, right? So routine is important. Once you enforce lockdown on these people, where their routine is getting up, going to the shop, right, and all of a sudden they're being scrutinized and not allowed to go in here, and they have to stand this certain length away from another person and stuff. That is terrible for their mental health. All the years they've spent making these people independent, they're now telling them to stay at home. It's not as simple as just everyone stay at home. There's a lot like this. Socially, the destruction of it all is just crazy. Like, it affects so many people in so many different ways. I think people need to look at that a little bit more.
and so many people out there are selfish, aren't they? I remember quite a few weeks back when we went and fed the homeless. You'd done it the day before, Steve, on your own.
That's
And
right, yeah.
Yeah, and we went the next day. And before I did the live, obviously we weren't going to show the homeless because they deserve their dignity. And I said to little Mark, I said, you watch what people say on here. So I did it, and you should be at home, stay at home.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to, if I want to go out there and assist someone in having some food so they don't starve, that's what I'm going to do. And that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Because we know the truth of what's going on. And, but I knew that was going to happen again, social conditioning, because that's what it is. Keep drumming, stay in, saves lives. No, that's it doesn't. Stay in will create more deaths than it will if you went out.
Yeah, that's true, mate. I mean, I mean, me personally, I've been doing bits for some elderly people in my personal community for the last couple of weeks. I've actually done the shopping for this old girl that lives about 4 roads away from me for the last couple of weeks, and I feel like if I sort of publicise that, you just get scrutinised for it. Do you know what I mean? And this is where we talk about social conditioning, because this is like this pressure to comply, isn't it? In a sense, and not be a community. They want to break down the community of people. That's what they want to do. Keep us all apart. No one talk to each other.
That's exactly it. And you're right. When what you said a moment ago is that when the lockdown is eased and everyone can go out again, there's still going to be that social distance
So,
conditioning. I went to the shop yesterday and it was quite awful, to be honest. I suppose because I'm aware as well makes it even more awful. Just to say, truth like dark. Has written, Tracy, are you aware that Boris is getting a lot of shout outs, references by QAnon team and President Donald? Are you up to linking? Are you up for linking to get him aware we are behind him? Truth like to die. I appreciate that that's what you believe, but for me, Boris is a puppet and he didn't have COVID and he wasn't in
no.
hospital. So
Uh,
for me, no, I'm sorry, and I do appreciate that that's what you feel and you have to do what you believe. But for me, that's a no-no.
do you mind if I just put my 2 cents on
Yeah,
that?
please do, Steve.
Like I was talking about, sort of it. I was quite reluctant to accept the fact that there is a deep state. Um,
Yeah.
You know, do you not find it a bit like, and you have to look at the symbology of things. You have to look at history of things. You have to look at numerology and stuff. Isn't it a bit weird that he rose on Easter Sunday?
Well, the funny thing is, right, I've got the screenshots.
Like, come
Two
on.
of my mates, two of my friends, they're stuck in Spain. Right? They're stuck in Spain and they just want to get back. And I'd written to them, I posted to them on the Monday, watch and see him rise on the Sunday. And that's exactly
Oh,
what.
really? Oh, right.
Yeah, so I've got the screenshots and they were messaging me frantically on the Sunday going, oh my God, you're right. Boris did rise. Of course he did. Because
Yeah.
those of those who are really aware, you could see that that's how it was going to go. So I'm sorry, truth, light to dark. But for me, Boris is a no-no. And definitely one of them. And he's not the only one. Yeah, we've been
No.
fooled by many.
Well,
By,
there's just something I'd like to put out there as well. When I was talking about the left and right dichotomy again, like what you often get from people that claim to be on the right is that they tend to claim, people that were Remainers. They go, why are you for unelected bureaucrats? Well, how about, for a start, right? Obviously, I'm a Brexiteer, voted Brexit and all that. Yeah, sound. We all are. But how about you look at the fact that everyone in Whitehall, right, everyone that's in power, all the prime ministers, they're unelected bureaucrats. They're eating elites.
yeah, just
They're,
like the
they're,
lords,
they're,
just like the lords, just like the judges.
they're unelected. They're unelected elites, all of them. So, like, deal with it here.
The thing is, people have been played for a very, very long time. And what happens when you research is a lot of people, when they research, they will go so far because they may just have a question on a certain topic.
They see the truth they want to see.
That's right.
And then won't go any further.
That's spot on. And you have to go further, yeah, to find out what the real truth is about everything. I've been there, truth, light to dark. I've been there and believed that, someone had a good leader in their country because you look for hope, don't you? You hear someone saying the things that you want to hear and you believe them to be good and true when it's far from that. You have to keep researching and don't just research the subject you want to find out about, research everything.
Yeah, that's right. It can't be that that fits what I wanted to know. Like it, yeah, you have to push it further, don't you?
Yes. So Jason has put in with schools, how mad is it? I'm sorry if this is been done while I've been kicked off. With schools, how mad is it that they will call parents to apply a plaster or give Calpol, yet they are so keen to inject children?
Well,
Good question.
I mean, something as soon as this happened, something I looked quite vigorously into was mandatory vaccinations, the law behind it, the law behind paramedics and stuff. I've got like quite a lot of my best friends are paramedics and stuff, and nurses. There is sort of a guideline that they'd have to breach if mandatory vaccinations were ever to come in. So, I mean, I definitely won't be playing ball on that front.
Yeah, they have an oath, basically, don't they? The doctors and nurses have an oath, and they can't go against that oath.
That's correct. Yeah, they can actually get sued if they do as well.
Yeah,
And that's even if there's that's even if there's temporary legislation in as well. Still applies.
exactly. And so look that up because it's very important. Because how they're going to play this, they're going to play this the same they did when Brexit was going on, you know, and they messed the country about all intentionally with Brexit. They started then putting in the papers that Brexiteers had changed their mind and that everyone wanted to stay now. And they're going to do the same thing with the vaccinations. They're going to start printing and saying that everyone in the country wants to be vaccinated. Yeah. And remember the communist trick. The bigger the lie you tell and the more you repeat it, the more people will believe it.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, we've got to come off now because it's Luke Cage, isn't it, at 10:30.
Oh yeah, I love that fella. Cool.
Yeah, so
Oh, what you say?
Yeah, 10:30 he's on. Steve, I want to say thank you so much for being with me tonight. Maybe one night, Ado, you can come and sit with us on here. You can let me know if you do that. So everyone in the room, thank you for watching. Sorry about the tech issues where I kept getting thrown out. Thank you for the comments and questions, as always. Steve, is there something that you'd like to say before we go?
Not particularly, mate. I don't have a closing comment. It's just a pleasure to be on. I'm a bit of a rookie. Like I'm a rookie at all of this. This is my first live I've ever done. So thanks very much for hosting me, Tracy, and for Jason. So peace out, people. Hope it was a good show, I guess. And yeah, everyone keep their wits about them in dark days.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to answer your question, Dave Simpson, about the 7 principles, they don't follow any of them, do they? Kaylee was the one, Umbrella Solutions, who sent me that link to that. They don't follow none of the 7 principles. They fail in them all, like they fail in everything, like they're failing the people now. The only peaceful solution and the only way to stop this and the only way to push the New World Order back is for everyone to get out tomorrow, go and open your businesses that will end up going broke, you know, go back to work, get the black cabbies on the road, everyone just go back as normal, and they'd soon have to push back because it would be all peaceful and everyone going back to what they normally do. But unfortunately right now the masses are mind controlled. The best thing for an oppressor to have is the mind of the oppressed. And right now, with all the media doing what they're doing, they have that, don't they?
They certainly do, Tracy. I might have to get off, mate. Yeah. I've got to let my dog out.
Yeah, don't worry. It's a beautiful dog. Is it the one still in that picture?
It is, mate. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Right, Steve, I will see you soon. And to everyone else, thank you for joining us. Jason, thank you for hosting. And
yeah, thanks, Jason. Been a pleasure.
Bye, Tracy.
Yeah, and
Cheers,
I'll
Tracy.
see you all
Thanks a lot.
next week. Take care for now.
Thanks.